Highly regulated industries like finance, healthcare, and defense operate under a rigid constraint. Every single system of record event, trace, and log must be preserved for years to survive a regulator's walkthrough. You cannot simply sample the data or drop logs when traffic spikes. Regulators enforcing SOX or FedRAMP do not accept similar events suppressed during a forensic investigation. Perfect, lossless retention is a hard requirement. Legacy SIEM platforms heavily penalize that exact requirement. A single piece of telemetry streaming into a third-party cloud passes through 6 distinct toll gates: ingest, indexing, storage, retention, query, and egress. Keeping data for years causes these meters to compound rapidly into an exponential cost curve, dwarfing your upfront subscription. To keep budgets from exploding, engineering teams are often forced to quietly shorten retention windows or filter out crucial telemetry streams. That saves money today, but creates blind spots during a future audit or breach investigation. Under the traditional vendor model, compliance becomes an exponentially growing tax. You're paying a premium to store your own forensic evidence on someone else's infrastructure. Sasquatch Labs decouples the data retention layer from the query compute layer to break this cycle. This diagram compares the two network structures side by side. On the left, everything routes into a heavy, centralized vendor cloud. On the right, Sasquatch processes the data locally at your edge nodes and then routes it directly into your own private storage bucket. The trade-off is ownership. To get forensic integrity and drastically cut your bill, your organization has to take control of its own cloud storage buckets. If you manage the bucket, the Sasquatch platform handles the rest through 3 mechanisms: localized edge compression, API query shems, and Agentic AI investigators. Shifting telemetry from a metered third-party cloud to an owned private cloud removes the compounding retention fees entirely. It starts at the source. A daemon set drops 1 agent per node right where the data is generated, whether that's Kubernetes, bare metal, or a big data cluster. The data is processed before it ever moves across the network. Instead of using a generic algorithm, the agent analyzes the exact shape and repetitive patterns of your specific logs, traces, and metrics. Calibrating to your unique environment allows it to shrink the data footprint to 1/100th of its original size. This compression guarantees data fidelity. Every single event undergoes a cryptographic SHA-256 verification to prove 0 bytes were lost. Those super compressed chunks bypass third-party networks entirely, landing straight in your own cloud storage bucket. Because it never leaves your cloud, you eliminate cross-region egress fees completely. You pay base cloud storage rates with 0 vendor markup. The result is mathematical certainty. Your audit trail is perfectly intact, stays strictly within your perimeter, and the cost to retain it drops drastically. Replacing established tools like Datadog or Splunk creates massive organizational friction. Your engineering teams already know the query languages, and your alerts are already built. Sasquatch navigates this by using a query engine called Snowman. It acts as an API shim that intercepts standard search queries from the tools your team is already using. Point your existing dashboard at the Sasquatch endpoint. It bypasses the vendor's indexing backend, pulling directly from cold storage chunks. By querying raw chunks in your own bucket, you avoid licensed search compute fees. The marginal cost is just cloud egress and CPU. The operational trade-off is that platform engineers must now govern and maintain 2 underlying infrastructure layers. But by severing the user interface from the expensive storage backend, you break the vendor lock-in without forcing your engineers to learn a new system. For live incident response, Sasquatch deploys Agentic AI called Trolls directly onto the live data stream. During an outage, engineers pull traces, walk through each errored span, check service health, and query thousands of logs. Point the AI agent at an error, and it autonomously pulls the trace, walks errored spans, and correlates relevant logs in seconds. It drafts the root cause analysis, links the exact evidence, and prepares a pre-filled ticket in Jira or ServiceNow. This cuts resolution time drastically, but it doesn't replace the engineer. A human still needs to review the AI's logic and authorize the fix. Agentic AI automates the repetitive investigation workload, leaving human engineers to focus on the actual repair. Deciding whether to unbundle your observability stack is ultimately an infrastructural risk-reward calculation that requires careful, strategic consideration. Let's map this on a matrix. Compliance strictness is the vertical axis. Telemetry scale is the horizontal axis. High-scale enterprises in defense, finance, or healthcare belong in the top right quadrant. They have massive data volumes and zero tolerance for data loss. For these organizations, localized edge compression turns compliance from an unpredictable financial liability into a fixed, manageable asset. But this decentralized approach isn't for everyone. Early-stage startups or low-volume applications sitting in the bottom left quadrant are generally better off paying the higher unit costs of a fully managed SaaS monolith. They benefit from the simplicity of having everything handled by the vendor. Adopting Sasquatch requires a mature platform engineering team that is ready to manage their own cloud storage buckets over the long haul. The bottom line is practical. Your observability infrastructure should never cost more than the application it monitors. By unbundling the architecture and keeping your data, it no longer has to.